Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Our action research plan is Enhancing Writing in a Dual Language Science Classroom, presented by Afralia Sánchez, Jonathan Herrera, Marcela Latorre, and Sharon Valles. Content, the problem, research question and objectives, method and tools, data collection, intervention, resources and lessons, timeline, time of research, challenges, classroom and challenges, data and report, schedule content for optimal reach. The problem. A problem we identified is that a group of second grade students have difficulties writing a cohesive text that summarizes their learning in science. What is the impact it causes that the students cannot effectively communicate what they have learned through written text? Research question. How can instruction that focuses exclusively on sentence and paragraph structure help students effectively write a text of their learning in science classes? Expected outcome, the students will demonstrate improved ability to summarize learning through structured writing. We are going to address on explicitly instruction on how to write a correct sentence based on what students have learned. Research objectives. When we talk about sentence structure, students will be able to identify the structure of a sentence, including the subject and predicate, as well as proper punctuation. If we talk about connecting ideas, students will be able to write simple, compound, and complex sentences coherently in a paragraph and use linking words to connect ideas. And finally, if we talk about summary writing, students will be able to write a summary of the process using linking words to connect ideas within categories of information.
Participant overview and demographics. So the research will take place in a second grade dual language classroom. It's going to be 24 students divided between native Spanish and native English speakers. Students get instruction in both languages, Spanish and English. Science and literacy lessons are delivered in Spanish, while social studies and math are taught in English. It's going to be half 50% in each language program, which students will be participating 120-minute lessons per day between reading and writing sections. Data collection and tools that will provide information that allowed the teacher to identify areas requiring greater scaffolding due to linguistic barriers. So we're going to work with the observation, with the checklist to hear what do we need to know before we start each lesson, like the basic ideas. Next one, we're going to work daily with exit tickets. So we're going to have a feedback for each section if they have a progress on what we need to continue to focus on. And the rubrics, that's going to be the final paragraph about the structure and comprehension. So the week one, we're going to focus on sentence structure. The teacher is going to explicit instructions and model the sentence formation. The children, they're going to place sentence this activity. They're going to be focused on the vocabulary of the topic that we're going to talk about. Then we're going to move on to the sentence strips where they are going to write each part of the sentence. And the exit ticket monitor, we're going to check the daily progress that the children have. And the week two, we're going to continue with the sentence builder. So we're going to focus on some images according to the sentence that they are working before. The teacher, they're going to build a paragraph, a whole chart according to the information. Also, we're going to work with the collaborative paragraphs, writing with the teacher's supervision. And the day five, we're going to work with the rubrics based on assignment of the structure and cohesions between the content, grammars, and develop coherence paragraph.
Okay, now we move on to the timeline of the action research. In this case, it is divided in phases. We can call it like that. The phase one is the setup. The project begins with 2 weeks at preparation, in which we focus on developing the proposals, design the lesson plans, and at the end we create the data collection tools. The phase two, which is the third week and fourth week, we basically is that is the week three is the initial stage where we teach explicit sentence construction. Once they have solid foundation, and we move to week four, the second stage here, the students learn paragraph structures, turning simple sentences into complex ones using connectors. And the phase three, which is the fifth week, is basically the team gather up and collect with all the data collected, report the results. Now, having a plan is one thing, and but implementing it with the grade students, it brings specific challenges. As we know, we have to create engagement in students, and we know that grammar can be repetitive and boring sometimes. And to solve this, we integrate it into the farm to table science theme using games and collaboration. And then the language skills, in this case, the language skills, students have different levels, and we understand that. And we address this through adaptive scaffolding, so every student can participate regardless their starting point, so we can level them up. In that way, they cannot fall behind from other students or classmates. And attention is really important, as we know. And maintaining the focus at that age is kind of difficult because we need to keep activities short and tailored to their interests. And it's important to have these kind of activities because in that way they can maintain their concentration, obviously. And then we continue with the confidence. The confidence here is really important because in real environments, students are often shy about writing in a second language, and we use sentence templates and collaborative writing to reduce their anxiety so they can help each other. And at the end, to finalize this, is that we know that we had to offer to them support. We gave them, like for example what I mentioned before was the sentence templates. That's something that can rely the students can rely on. However, the idea is that they cannot be dependent on those kind of tools. So we try to start solving this kind of issue with gradually removing that support so they can become more autonomous writers.
Now we're going to talk about our data report. As you can see here, more than half of the class demonstrated content knowledge across all four questions. The observational checklist was divided in four questions, each question assessing different skill from students. We can see the blue lines that show us that most students achieved the skill. And the one that was low was background knowledge. And this was good feedback because then the teacher was able to support students more about connecting background knowledge with new knowledge. Um, the observational checklist purpose was to see whether students had mastered or not the content knowledge, which was fundamental for them to write sentences later. The exit tickets were divided in three categories according to the levels of scaffolding. And again, we can see the 96% of the participants were able to meet expectations, demonstrating both knowledge and skill acquisition. As you can see, the purple shows students who needed support. And overall, if we add those with the ones who achieved it on their own, is very high results. And you can see that yellow bars, those are two students in the generate on their own. But we can also think about the demographic of students, and those students who did not meet the expectation might be related with the fact that they needed extra support or special accommodations. So we can attribute the results to that as well. Finally, the rubric measure the entire work of the intervention. We can see also that students had high levels of achievement. The green is proficient, and sentence structure, which was really high, considering that that was the main focus of the intervention. Use of vocabulary was high as well. And students who are developing still are showing good results considering the intervention. And this just shows that they need to continue working on those skills because are in process of acquiring the skill. And again, the purple who are beginners, we can attribute to those who need more support and special accommodations in the classroom. Despite those, doesn't mean that the teacher doesn't have to consider them for the future and see ways to meet those students' needs. This is our bibliography that we use for intervention. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening or afternoon.